addicts. Bring the drums
Run
in.
it. I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah.
Paul Brapson, where are we at here today? Sunday, May what? 26th?
26th.
26th. All the Pressure podcast. We've been away for a few weeks, and today we have Andy Posen and Kenny Lambert, two recovering addicts, where they're going to share their story with us today. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. This is going to be deep. Andy, let me tell you this first. Mm-hmm. I've never talked about this with anybody before. But when I came home from prison in Haiti, over the years, I got to see the different Facebook posts and the comments, and then the memories come up from time to time. I didn't realize how much you voiced your opinion or whatever it was about my situation. I never knew that. And I saw that repeatedly. That meant so much to me. You know, I really want to thank you for that, because prison in Haiti was a lonely experience for me. And guys like my brother Ben, guys like Tim Widener, they helped me out a lot. And all the years later, looking back at guys like you who would stay busy commenting, that means the world to me, man. Yeah. So I want to thank you for that today.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we were right there with you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And so your story, we'll start off with you. And Kenny, hold on a second, because we're going to address you in a second. Your story is a fascinating one. I always remember you when you were younger, like you said, you had been over to Bonnie's on Lloyd Street with Tim and Ben. And I always remember you were with Joe Reese. And I love Joe, love the Reese family, love Charlie. Mm-hmm. Just love Barberton, you know. Talk to us, like, at what point coming up out of high school or whenever it was that you started down your road, a dark road. And from there, what was your road to Damascus moment where things started to change? Help us understand.
All right, sure. So my drug of choice is alcohol. Growing up, you know, I always I like to hang around the athletes.
Yeah.
And being short and stocky, I never could really get on the field. So, you know, I would do the ball boy stuff. And then I was always trying to, you know, kind of fit in. And, you know, that's when I found alcohol in like 7th grade. You know, I don't remember sometimes like what I did last week or this, but I remember every moment of that first drink, that first drunk is, I was at Rob Rist's house. You might know him.
Yeah.
Sorry for using his name. But, yeah, we were at a little keg party, me and Joe Reese.
At that point, you're 13?
Probably, yeah.
So you're a young teen.
Yeah, I had pegged Bugle Boy pants on and a plaid shirt. See, I remember all these details because it changed me. I found this magic elixir, the thing that made me be everything I thought I wanted to be. You know, I wasn't shy anymore. I could talk to girls. You know, the same old thing. You know, it breaks down those inhibitions, and so that continued. I was more of a, you know, I got good grades in high school, and then you know, college, the alcoholism graduated, where you're not just drinking on the weekends. You got to go to Bucket Wednesday and Thirsty Thursday, and it progressed till, you know, in your 30s. Then you go to the bars, where Barberton has a lot of bars. The first 3 letters of Barberton are bar.
Yeah, almost on every corner. Yes, sir.
There was like 40 bars around. You know, there wasn't just a bar on every corner. There was 3 bars on every corner.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, that graduated, and then it started to deteriorate my health in my late 30s, my early 40s. And I had early cirrhosis, fatty liver. So I was always a blackout drinker. I would never drink just to have get a nice buzz, have a good time. It was always to be the drunkest person. I have 2 alcoholic parents. So I found that I could always drink more and faster than everybody else and not feel effects like, you know, the hangovers, the falling down. I could seem to handle it better than everybody else. That moment where alcoholism is a disease because it's chronic, progressive, and fatal if not arrested. And it graduated to where I went to 5 rehabs when I wanted to get sober. 5 years before these 3, I've been sober. And it gave me a good background on, how to go to AA and, you got to get a higher power and all this. So eventually, I kept failing. I was trying to do it my way. I wasn't giving it, I didn't have a higher power. I would do just like, they have the 12 steps of AA. Well,
Right.
I ain't doing all them. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to do it my way because I'm smarter.
Right.
And, I failed miserably. Each relapse was worse. And I kept hitting harder, and I kept going down this hole. And COVID hit, and, there's no AA. They're closed. I got 3 months. I'm hanging on by a thread. I got all this money. So I'm living at my dad's, and he's like, you gotta go. He's got 38 years sober. And I'm like, all right. I walked down to Berlin's motel. I was going to stay there one night. And I ended up staying there 3.5 months. My plan there was to drink myself to death. I was up to probably a gallon of vodka a day and a box of wine.
Wow.
And I would wake up in the morning and I'd curse God that I woke up. And I did this over and over. And eventually I woke up one morning and said, God, I can't do this no more. You got to help me. And I call it the GOD movement. It's that gift of desperation where I can't call my family. I can't call no friends. I ain't got nobody. And I searched my contacts, and I found a guy named Mark Solchek. He was a counselor at IBH at the Times, and I called him, and he said, well, Drew, you just left IBH. You can come back if you want, but do something different. So we found a place called Woodhaven in Dayton. I went there, and that first night they had detox, and I showed up drunk, and I laid in that bed shaking, and I asked God to remove this obsession of alcohol, and something happened that night. I woke up different. It wasn't on my mind 24 hours a day anymore. And the key for me was I'd go to all these rehabs, I'd get real structured in my prayer, and then I would forget to pray or something would happen. That would lead to a relapse. So I knew my precursor to relapse was prayer. So for 1,292 days in a row, I prayed to God to help me stay sober at night. Thank Him. And that little opening that door to God of your understanding, it blossoms into a whole relationship. And that's the true blessing of recovery is, I have this whole new personal relationship, with the God of my understanding. And, that's just basically how it's went since then. And they told me you have to create a world you don't have to escape from, and you only have to change one thing to stay sober, and that's everything. So it's a whole new lifestyle. And basically that was my journey so far.
That's powerful as I sit here. That brings a great emotion in me. It wells up. And Paul knows I talk a lot. Sometimes I talk way too damn much. And so just listening to you, being captivated by what you're saying, I feel it inside of me. And I wanted to ask you, because you went from high school, before high school, pre-high school, you started drinking into high school, college, and in your adult life. It must have damaged all the relationships in your life, from parents to any love life or, anybody in your life. I mean, how, and of all your friends, was there anyone that stood by your side through it all that, would constantly call to check up and see how you were doing? Because you were living life as this is all happening. How was that for you?
You go to that point where you're basically homeless, hopeless, and, those guys stop calling. a friend of mine, Ian Scott, always, stayed by me. But a lot of those guys, you lose touch. They don't know how to interact with someone that's gone this far deep in their addiction. And, my family, they know a little bit about this. Basically, they have to distance themselves from me. They can't reach me. They can't say, why can't you stay sober for little Cora or little Alex? Why can't you do this? You're hurting us. And you can't stay sober for anyone else until you're willing to do everything and anything for yourself.
Wow. And
to love yourself more. I want to love myself so much that taking a drink sounds absurd. That today I can be present in those kids' lives. Not just there physically, but mentally and emotionally. My little nephew, he's going to be 8. My sister found a thing from his teacher in her backpack and showed it to me. It said, these are write your safe people. And I was the first name he wrote, Uncle Andy.
That's awesome.
And to me, that was so heartwarming to me. They don't know how much that meant to me because I don't want them to know that guy. I'm not that person anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, as your alcoholism, as the bottle gets bigger, your world gets smaller. You don't have, then people gotta, I didn't even want them in. I didn't want them to see what I turned into.
Yeah.
So I pushed everybody away to do what I want with who I want.
When they would come to you and they would say, hey, little Amy or little so and so, they're counting on you. Would that push you even further into the bottle? Like you're like, okay, now they're counting on me, so you had to find your place where you had to lose yourself again.
Exactly. Yeah. That's when the depression hits. When deep in your heart you're a good person, but this drug and this alcohol has such a hold on you that anything under your own power you can't change. That's why you need a power greater than yourself to give it away, to take away my obsession and my mental. You got to give your whole mind, body, and soul away. You got to do God's will, not my will, not what I want to do anymore.
In 2012, you were still heavily drinking, right? 2012. Yeah. Right? Well, that means more to me now because
I got sober in 2011.
Okay, I was gonna say because that's I went to prison in 2012 and you were commenting and posting and that means so much to me, man. Like really, because I was in a dark spot too. Thank you so much for that, bro. Yeah. Going through your own pain and then joining in mine.
Yeah, I remember seeing those posts as memories. Free Zeke. And, spread awareness for that. No, I'm sorry about that. I did get sober 11/12/2020, so I was drinking at the time.
Yeah.
But, I still cared about people.
Right.
I just was it was basically being a slave to that bottle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No matter the love or the putting me down or, it's the parents and stuff, they can't help you. They can't get you sober, and that's heartbreaking for them. And that's still an amends I try to make today. To watch your kids trying to kill themselves, trying to drink themselves to death. And there's nothing you can do.
Wow.
Well, congratulations for doing what you've done. I mean, that's awesome.
A big deal. Yeah, because it is inspiring. Because you see his posts on Facebook, and all the people we went to school with comment are moved by it. And speaking of those Free Zeke posts, those were by Tim Widener. Of course, me and Ben grew up with Tim. Tim was like a brother to us, like a real brother.
Yeah.
And Tim and Ben were my lifeline in prison, so that was a big deal. Kenny Lambert.
Yes, sir.
So I didn't know who you were until this morning.
Nice.
And it's a pleasure to meet you. You have an energy about you. When you came up on us today, I love the tattoos.
I appreciate it.
You have a swag. I appreciate that. Of course, I don't know anything about you, so I'm just finding out about you this morning. Thanks to Paul. Paul and Andy are cousins.
Yeah.
They brought you along, and this is fascinating for me because my dad was a big drinker, and alcohol and cigarettes killed my pops. Tell us a little bit about your journey and at what age you started.
Yeah. So I grew up, born and raised in Kenmore.
Okay.
Like right on the border of Kenmore and Barberton.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like Carl J. Park was my backyard.
Right.
So I just tell people I'm from like both.
Yeah.
You know, because like the Kenmore Barberton beef.
Exactly. For sure.
But yeah, I grew up with both parents present in the household. You know, Christian family. Church was mandatory every Monday or every Sunday and Wednesday.
Right.
And I hated that.
Yep.
Only because I when I went to church, everyone was so happy, and I didn't understand why. You know, and I didn't understand like the relationship with God. So church wasn't really my thing. But I grew up very sheltered. You know, very naive, didn't know anything about alcohol or drugs, which is crazy growing up in Kenmore. You know.
Yeah.
But I also grew up with, out of all my friends, I was the only one that had a present dad. You know, but as a kid, I took that for granted. Because I'm like, when I get in trouble, I have consequences.
Right.
When my friends get in trouble, it's just slap on the wrist, they're back outside.
Exactly.
You know? So I'd say like my first drink and drug, I went to Springfield, like my parents had open enrolled us because they didn't want us to go to Akron Public.
Right. Credit to them for that, because Akron public schools are not a good place, man.
Yeah,
really
they wanted to try to like save us, you
Yes,
know, like as
sure.
much as they could.
Yeah.
And it did, you know, till about 8th grade. And then, but I remember in 8th grade, I was so naive. Someone had asked me if I remembered so and so, you know, like, hey, do you remember this dude? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, he lost a bunch of weight. He's been messing with crystal meth. And I'm like, my response was, is she hot? Because I thought Crystal was a female. You know, I was so naive to the drugs and everything, right? So then for high school, my parents, they gave me the option. They said, do you want to go to Kenmore or do you want to go to Springfield? And I wanted to go to Kenmore because it's a 5-minute commute, you know?
Exactly.
So I could roll out of bed and just out the door.
Right.
And sleep in longer. So and I could hang out with my friends I had in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
So I go to Kenmore, it's a total culture shock, you know? Because like Springfield is like suburban, hillbilly, you know?
Pretty much all white.
Yeah. So then
boring.
I go, it is. You know, it's like anything you do there, it's like you get in trouble. You know, I go to Kenmore and it's like off the chain.
Right.
You know, I see everyone's drinking and doing drugs in school, fights every day, all day long.
It's live, and you were looking for that atmosphere.
And I grew up as a young skateboarder kid, you know, so I'm like, this is lit. This is where I fit in.
Yeah.
You know, and like the worst thing I did was like, you know, swept under the rug. So it's like I could like act out and like be, you know, try to like be cool and try to fit in with all these kids.
Right.
And I could have like stood out because I was always real quiet and full of anxiety, but I'm like a young skateboarder kid. I could do like kick flips and stuff. So they're like, that's sweet, you know?
Yeah.
So I could play basketball. So I like fit in, you know?
Okay.
But when I went to Kenmore they had found out I never drank or smoked, you know? So like in the whole school, like everyone couldn't believe it. And they're like, mission get Kenny drunk, right?
Right.
So we had planned it all out, went to a party. And when I got there, I drank 2 wine coolers, and it was horrible. You know, like my stomach hurt. I was just laying on the floor. Everyone's dancing around me, having a good time.
Yeah.
And
At this point, how old are you?
I was in 9th grade, so I was probably like 14.
Okay.
Yeah, and so like being so naive and like unfamiliar with what was going on, I truly believed in that moment that everyone was just dancing around me with stomach aches. You know, I'm like, how are people? This is not enjoyable. This is horrible. Wow. You know. So when I go back to school and tell everyone about my experience, the solution was you just drank the wrong stuff, you know? So I planned out another drunk with like my skateboard homies. And that was like the real first drunk, you know?
Yeah.
And it's crazy like to think about it, like looking back is so we had planned it out at the skate park and we went to my buddy's house in Fairlawn. It was like his dad's house. And his dad was like professional alcoholic, you know, like had the full bar in the basement. And I'd never seen anything like that. So I'm like, wow, like this dude has like almost like a business in his basement.
Yeah.
And the whole day we're talking about drinking gin and tonic. So we get there and
now at that point, were you a Snoop Dogg fan?
I was about to say, because
no, man, I was so naive.
Listening to that
I wasn't
music?
even hip. Yeah, I wasn't even hip. You know, like I'm just like the nerdiest, like white kid. You know, like just had no idea.
Incredible.
I remember like at that point I was trying to listen to like Lil Bow Wow.
Okay.
Like the OG Lil Bow Wow. So like I didn't know who Snoop Dogg was because he was on a song with him.
Right.
But like or like Nelly when he had the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
That was like when I first started getting hip to stuff like that in like 14.
Now
15.
you don't have any tattoos at this point.
No, no tattoos.
You're still a young white kid, real naive. Okay.
Yeah, nerdy. You know, long skater Justin Bieber hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I go out there and I start chugging tonic water. And my buddy's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to get drunk, man," you know? And they started laughing because I had no idea. But then when I drank that gin, it had did something, you know, like it had gave me this warm, amazing feeling like that, because all the anxiety and fear was gone.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I had arrived. Like the program I'm in is Alcoholics Anonymous, and talks about in the big book, like the first drink or drug, you feel like you have arrived, you know, like you've finally been born. You know?
And so both you would agree that the alcohol makes you feel brave, maybe?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what it does is that for me, the alcohol fills this void. You know, I have this void inside. I'm trying to fill it with everything else, materialistic things, you know, everything, women, cars, whatever it is, money, chasing all these things, but they're not fulfilling. They're temporarily fulfilling until it's gone,
Right.
you know? And it's like, oh, now I need more money. Now I need more, you know, this, and this. And it just never ends. But yeah, so I drank that gin, and what it, you know, like I had that feeling. I felt amazing, and I was funny. I felt like I fit in, and gin became like my favorite alcohol because it reminded me. It smelled like Christmas, you know. It smelled like pine trees and tastes like, and so I loved it. And then from there, you know, like that night ended horrible. My buddy had blacked out. They were like professional alcoholic kids, you know, like 15, 16. They had drank, they smoked cigarettes, and I thought that was cool, you know. I'm like, this is cool. I've never seen this, you know. I want to do this. But my buddy's dad ended up coming home, and he was in a blackout. And that was like the first time I had witnessed like parental on child violence, you know. And he started like beating the life out of his kid.
Wow.
And I remember, only thing I was thinking is like, I'm next, you know. Like this dude's about to beat us up. And he threw us the house phone and said, you guys got to call for a ride. Like, you guys can't stay here. And I'd look at my buddy, I said, well, I can't call my parents. They got church tomorrow, you know? And he said, well, I can't call mine because I'm a foster kid. And, like, looking back, I realized, like, someone always has it worse. You know, like, no matter how bad I think my life or whatever situation I'm in is you know, in the moment, I like, looking back, I realized, like, someone has it worse.
Right, for sure.
So I ended up calling my parents, you know. I called my dad, and he's, like, real Christian. He's never drank, never smoked. I think I've heard him cuss like 2 or 3 times, and it's like, damn. So it's not really even like a cuss word.
Yeah.
So he comes and picks us up, and what I did, though, I couldn't take accountability. So from that point on, for the next 15 years, anything that happened, I blamed someone else. His dad kicked us out because he came home drunk and forgot that we were spending the night. And then it just snowballed, you know, DUIs, you know, all the felonies and everything. It was, I wouldn't have got that felony if the cop wasn't there, you know, or it's your fault. You know, I'm pointing fingers because I couldn't accept and take accountability for me.
Right, right.
Yeah, and eventually, you know, then it led to the drinking. It was like every day after that. I drank a fifth a day for 5 years, young, you know, so like.
And how old are you now?
I'm 33.
So you're 33 now. You're the age of Christ at 33 years old. Are you married and have kids?
So I'm engaged. I have one daughter, and I have another kid on the way, yeah.
Okay.
So I have another one coming in July.
When was
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When was your road to Damascus moment? Like, when did, what happened that finally made you say, you know what, I need to change, or death's coming? Like, you know?
So like really like I wasn't like fearful of death, you know. Like when my addiction was at its all-time high, I was doing heroin. I did every drug, you know.
Wow.
So I'm doing everything. I'm trying to live that lifestyle.
Where, like Andy said earlier, he was drinking, trying to kill himself. Were you at that point too?
Oh yeah,
Really?
for sure, yeah. And I think like what my saving grace was my daughter, you know, being born. Even though she was born, I was still in active addiction.
Wow.
But holding her for the first time, you know, I knew like my purpose is greater. I have more responsibility than just me now, you know. And I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was if I were to overdose and die, or like end up dead somehow, commit suicide or whatever, my daughter grows up and she says, who was my dad? Her dad was not a good person. And so that was like my, you know, like that became like my purpose, you know, being a dad. And I still thought, you know, like I'd ended up homeless. And, you know, she's 9 months old, and I had no visitation to see her. But that's the only thing that I feel like that kept me truly from committing suicide, because I was so miserable, and I'm praying every night, like, God, if I have purpose, put me in jail, you know, or give me the courage to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I ended up in jail in Barberton, you know, so I got arrested in Barberton, and I'm like, when the cop pulled me over, I'm like, thank you. You saved my life, you know, and I'm high as a kite. And he's like, what, are you suicidal? And I'm like, not anymore, you know. But like even at that point, you know, I'd burned all bridges, you know, like I'd grown up in such a loving family, like grandparents, everyone, you know. But I had burned all those bridges because they wanted to see me do good. and they wanted to help me to where they'd enable at first, you know.
Yeah.
But then they realized like the more we enable, we're just adding fuel to the fire. Like we're gonna kill him, you know. Like we're gonna give him that money that gets him high and kills him.
Right.
But in the active addiction moment, I felt like no one loved me, you know, because I'm like, man, like you guys won't let me sleep on the couch, you won't let me take a shower, nothing. But what they were doing was trying to show me that like, hey, like if we can't keep helping you because you're just gonna keep doing it.
Right. Throughout all that time, from the time you were young up until 33 years of age, were you getting tattoos? Because I noticed you have a lot
18.
of tattoos. Okay,
18, yeah.
And you know that affects the way people look at you.
Yeah.
You know, and you have tattoos on your head. Like, did getting the tattoos, because, you know, tattoos can be addictive.
Yeah.
You get one, and then you got to get one to balance it out over
Yeah.
here, you know? And so how was that journey for you?
Yeah, man. It's like 18, I got my first tattoo because that was like a thing. It's like growing up, my parents said like I couldn't have a tattoo until I turned 18.
Yeah.
So at my 18th birthday, I went and got a full back, my whole top of my back,
Wow.
first tattoo. And then from there, you know, I was like, yeah, this is cool, you know? And I just kept doing it. And at one point, like in active addiction, I had a buddy that was doing tattoos, and he was like doing tattoos to get high, you know?
Wow.
So he's like, I'll do whatever tattoo for $40.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. You know, so
Yeah.
I was getting 2 or 3 tattoos a week.
Wow.
Yeah, if not more, you know? So,
Yeah, because tattoos are expensive.
Yeah.
Unless you got that
yeah,
buddy.
Yeah. You know, so I'm like, yeah, so, the tattoos, yeah. And then like with the head tattoos and stuff is like, to be honest, like I tattooed the side of my head because like since the journey of my sobriety, and like the purpose and I don't know if it's like a prideful thing or an ego thing, but I did it because the way when you look at someone and judge them, I want someone to look at me and judge me, right? And then be like, and then when they find out who I've become,
Yeah.
it's like kind of like a lesson. It's weird, you know. It's like I don't know how to describe it. So it's like, oh, like this dude looks like POS, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they find out like, oh, like this dude's actually a good person, or they talk to me and realize, and they're like, wow, you know. It's just like to change people's perspective,
Right.
you know.
Right. It's interesting you say that. Let me give you a quick story, Andy. You'll appreciate this. My brother Ben and Tim Widener begged me not to get the tattoo on my face. And at that point, I had got divorced, was separated from my kids, and I was really in a defiant moment in my life. So the tattoo on my face I got in Miami. Tim Widener was with me. He was with me at that point, and he was begging me not to do it. He said, him and Ben would say, "You'll never work again. You'll never be able to do this again." And I was going back to Haiti, so I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to end up in prison and be shipped back, you know. So the tattoo on my face, of course, I thought it was a Haitian statue, Haitian slave, and I thought anytime anyone looks at me in my face, they're going to have to think about Haiti. And then I put my 2 sons, Moses and Spartacus, their names around it. So it's interesting you would bring that up about explaining your tattoo on your head, because in pride and ego, that's a problem for all of us sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And that's been something that's followed me my entire life. But I think, man, Andy, as I'm looking at you and Kenny, and I'm thinking God's grace is sufficient, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because none of us deserve it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
None of it. I know I don't deserve it. And man, God is so good.
For sure, and that's the whole thing. Is when I prayed that prayer, God put me in jail or give me purpose. And I had never prayed to go to jail. I always prayed to get out, you know?
Yeah.
I knew when God answered that prayer that there was something greater, you know? And I started building that relationship with God. And it's crazy how that relationship with God has blossomed into the life today. Like last Thursday, on the 16th, I celebrated 6 years sober.
Wow.
You know?
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's like in 6 years, it's surreal because it's like 6 years ago, I got arrested in Barberton, you know? And then I was getting out of jail over here. And I walked all the way back to Kenmore.
Do you remember the cop that arrested you by chance?
It's blurry, you know? Like everything was blurry.
Yeah, because that'd be interesting to see if you could ever run back into him and meet him, because in effect, he kind of helped save you, right?
Yeah.
He was on that journey. God put him in your path.
Well, I was about to say, you were praying to get out of jail, and it took you to go to jail to get out.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I was praying to go to jail, yeah. And like before, though, you know, like every time I was in jail. But like that's the thing is like that was like the foundation of building that relationship with God.
Yeah.
And when I built that relationship with God, it's like I would just give God a little more faith, you know, like a little more, like the mustard seed. My mom always said as a kid, like, if you have a mustard seed of faith, it'll all work out. And I'm
Move
like,
a mountain.
I'm like, that's so tiny. Like, it never made any sense until I experienced it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like these miracles kept happening. I'm praying and God just providing and showing up. And And that first year of sobriety was the hardest, you know, because I came home and everyone was like placing bets against me, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'd sold everyone dreams before, you know? I'm like, I'd go to jail for 6 months and be like, yeah, when I get out, I'm going to be sober. I'm going to do the best, this and this and this. I get out and I'd screw up the first day. But I so like, and so this time around, I didn't sell anyone's dreams, you know? I didn't tell them. I'm like, I'm just going to show you. Because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So I'm like, just one day. And that first year was, I didn't work the first 120 days because I just wanted to focus on sobriety. And
Who were you living with at that point?
when I came home, my grandma let me stay with her.
Your grandma.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's like the sweetest lady in the world.
So as you're with your grandma,
Yeah.
certainly, I was going to ask Andy this too. You can answer this too. You know, you always have somebody that comes up and gives their testimony. It's great. It gives you goosebumps. But what's not talked about a lot of times in somebody's story is when you're at grandma's house those first couple weeks. And Andy, when you first made that turnaround and you're home and you're alone and you guys are having that itch to want to drink or want to do this drug or that, both of you can feel free to chime in or but one at a time. How was it in those dark moments where you really want to go back into it? What did you do to get out? Did you just start praying?
So what I did is these 4 previous times of going to these rehabs and coming out, I would go home to Dad's. And, you know, he's sober, but I would still, you know, try to sneak. And this time, you know, I was always trying to do it my way. So this time, they say your best chance of recovery is go to a sober house. You know, in my mind, I don't need no sober house, but I'm doing it. I'm willing to do anything.
Right.
So I go to the sober house in Akron. Of course, sober houses ain't everybody's sober. You know, my first week in a sober house, it was on Cole Avenue in Akron. And my roommate, we weren't allowed to go in each other's rooms, but they weren't locked. And I didn't see him for a day or so. Knock on his door, I push it and it won't open. So I'm like, all right, I call this supervisor, say this dude is still in his room. So he comes in and pushes it, and this guy's dead from an overdose. And this is 2 weeks sober, out of treatment. And death was always like one of my huge go-tos of picking up that bottle. So it was basically the first time I've ever seen a dead body. I was the first one to see him, and you know, and I called somebody. I called my sponsor. I called friends. You know, I didn't call my family. I had to call someone that has been in that situation before. And so, you know, my dad kept saying, you know, you can come back, and because he loves me and he wants, you know, it's a safe place for me. But I couldn't do it anymore. I had to do it on my own. And, yeah. You know, like Kenny said, you know, I was blessed to not have to work the first 2 months of being out of treatment. And they say do 120 meetings or 90 meetings in 90 days. I did like 140 in 90 days. There was no reason for me not to hit 3 or 4 meetings a day. And that gave me a huge foundation and a whole new group of people that care about me. Because that's what you need, you know?
Yeah.
I need them people when I'm feeling like a drink's a good idea today. And you can call them and you know, they can talk you off that ledge. So, yeah, that's basically, you know, I was willing to do whatever it took to get sobriety. And then my work called back. I'm a chef. And I would tell these counselors, I'm going to go back to being a chef. I went to school for this. This is my passion. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Because I work saute. I have a bottle of alcohol in my hand 8 hours a day at work.
Incredible.
Every single dish I hit with alcohol.
Wow.
And I used to drink on the job. And I would drink that box wine, that sherry, that Marseille, anything I could get my hands on. And
so you were a functioning alcoholic too. You worked and you were.
Yeah, I would never call off.
Wow.
Because I needed money for alcohol.
Right. Wow.
And I found out that I could perform my task with a little buzz on. Of course, I'd finish it at the end of the night. And, you know, the counselor's like, you can't do that. You got to find something else to do. And work called me back after COVID. And I'm like, I tell my head chef and my boss, I'm like, I'm in recovery. I'm an alcoholic. If I think of taking a sip of that box wine, that alcohol, I'm quitting. And they're like, all right, well, you know. So I disclosed everything to them. So they were comfortable, they knew my situation. They helped me. And, God took away that obsession. I've never thought about taking a sip of that alcohol since then.
They helped hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, it's just about being honest with those around you. So they know what to look for, and they can help you if they see something's off.
What about you, Kenny? You're at grandma's first couple weeks, first couple months. How did that go for you, man?
So, like, my grandma's always been, like, the sweetest lady,
But they're the easiest to take advantage of.
Yeah, for sure. So she was, like, she was always the biggest enabler because I could go over there and be like, Grandma, I need money for my phone bill, and she'd be like, okay, here, And then I'd go, like, the next week and be like, Grandma, I need money for my phone bill again and make up some story. And she'd be like, she'd believe it, because we're the sweetest angel grandkids, So I think what it was, though, is like, cause she watched me, like, destroy myself, but she's just too sweet to say anything. So when I came home, I think it was, like, a huge thing. She let me stay there, and it was like I didn't have no desire, to drink or drug because I was so miserable. And then when I came home, I became a full-time dad. The tables would turn, so I had my daughter full-time, like 6 days a week.
Wow.
And so, like, that was, like, my motivator, and my daughter went with me everywhere. Meetings, I hung out at sober living houses all day because, I wanted to be around sobriety. But it was a beautiful thing, I think, looking back, because, like, my grandma got to, like, watch the foundation, and, like, truly see, like, wow, he is putting in the work. He's trying to be a better person. And
your back's kind of on the wall. Now you got your daughter standing right next to you at your meetings and everything else sitting with you, so it's...
Yeah. And, like, that's the thing, though, is, like, those meetings and, like, the people in them, like, I hang out with older people, because, like, they're going to tell me what I need to hear versus, like, what I want to hear. If I hang out with someone that's, like, my age or younger, and be like, yeah, they're going to co-sign it. They're going to be like, yeah, bro, do whatever, That's a horrible idea. Go do it. Like,
I'm curious to know, are you still with your daughter's mother?
No.
So you guys are separated? How does that work with you guys? You guys get along?
Bro, it's insane. Like, God has rekindled this whole, it's a huge family. Like, the girl I'm with now, I've been with her for 4 years. And, like, my daughter's mom and her, they're, like, best friends.
Wow.
They communicate. It's insane. Because, like, I got sober, and it's like, I started, like, fixing myself. My daughter's mom's like, I can't fix you no more. Like, we don't vibe. We don't belong together,
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I grew up with both parents present. Like, that's how our daughter needs to grow up, with, like, both parents in the same household. Right. And our whole relationship was toxic, though, The 4 years that me and her was together was... Yeah. I was lying and...
But was there drugs and alcohol involved?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's like, whenever, today, though, like, that relationship is like, I prayed and prayed. I'm like, God, like, I do not see how this is going to work. I don't see how, like, my daughter's going to be able to grow up and we're going to be able to be civil. Like, because it was, like, the first few months was, like, hey, you take the baby. And it was, like, why? What do you want to do? Like, who you hanging out with? And I just continued to pray and just let it go. And I'm like, God, I trust and believe that you have a greater plan than I could even imagine. And here it is today, like, the girl I've been with now, Christy, for 4 years, she's pregnant. And it's like the whole time that my daughter's mom was pregnant, Tiffany, I wasn't around. I was running the streets doing my thing, so I wasn't able to help, and I didn't realize what a pregnant woman really goes through.
Yes, sir.
So, like, now in sobriety, it's been a beautiful blessing to be able to be there and help and, like, do other things that I wasn't able to the first time around. But it's cool because, like, everyone's this huge happy family. They communicate.
Well, like you said, that's a God thing, and a lot of us men, even me, like me personally, like, I haven't been the best husband over the years or the best dad, and taking accountability for that and admitting that's hard. But women, what they do when they get pregnant and what their bodies go through, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really is. And so we really have to, if you haven't grown up as a man, because we have our pride, and you talk about, you listening to the music, you're talking about bitches and hoes.
Right.
We all want to be cool. And you really think what my dad used to say, my mom's stomach was a roadmap because she had 4 C-sections. And what women go through to give birth to us and to our kids is a really big deal. So big shout out to all the women who put up with a lot of mess from men like me.
For sure. So I kind of want to step out and apologize because I've just been listening to the stories and everything else, which is, to me, is actually fascinating. But real quick question: when you guys were young, did you feel like you were missing something deep down that you feel that you were looking to fill that void? Is that what led you? You know, like when you walked into that party, you never had alcohol before, so your main goal wasn't like, you know what, I'm going to get drunk. Like, was it like was there a void that there was something that you were searching for, and that just happened to be it when you found it?
Yeah, basically, I was shy. Girls didn't pay attention to me, but that broke down those inhibitions, and I could talk to them and I could dance. You know, I wasn't trying to dance sober. That ain't no fun.
Right.
But yeah, it just everything changed after that first time. You know, and I knew I was going to do it again and again and again. You know,
Right.
It transcended me to who I thought I was supposed to be, and then it takes you to a rock bottom, which is the blessing of recovery. Is, you know, it progresses. It's fun in college, and then it gets to a straight addiction where 5 a.m, this is me. I'm banging on the gas station door to let me in. I can't make it back across the street to guzzle this pint of Kamchatka vodka. I got to go in the bathroom and do it, and then have one in my pocket to take home. And it became just like a job. It was not fun. It progresses, you know, and it's deceiving. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful, like they say. You know, you don't see it coming. And, you know, I would always see these guys drinking in the morning. I'm like, never be like that guy. And then you find yourself being that guy. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a real addiction. That's why I can help addicts, too, is I've never done heroin. I have done numerous other drugs, everything other than that. But I didn't get into opiates because I drank so much, I knew I'd fall out and I wouldn't wake up. Mm. And even though I was trying to drink myself to death, there was something that really didn't want me to, you know, to go. And it takes you to this rock bottom where rock bottom's a great place to build a foundation. And that's where everything's gone. And then you can open your heart and your mind to the Lord, and, you know, He can fill that void for you. That the drugs and alcohol made me someone I thought I wanted to be my whole life. And that's just the blessing of recovery, is you see that this is all His plan to make you the person you are today. To have you go through those hardships, so you understand, and I can help someone else. I've been there, buddy. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to surprise me.
I get goosebumps listening to you say that, but to know that despair and how lonely you must have felt in those moments. I remember I was watching The Passion of the Christ, and I watched Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and sweating blood, and I said, I want to know what that feels like. This was years ago, and I got a chance to get a small taste going to prison in Haiti. And listening to your guys' stories is it swells up in me. It moves me to emotion. Like, that's incredible. Like you said rock bottom. That is the best place to build a foundation. That's incredible, man. Those words are so powerful and so moving. And you are a testimony, brother. You are, and Kenny, you too. Kenny, I wanted to say, Andy, of course, I didn't know this. Andy said something about you had a business, I think.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that a little bit? So the shirts and what you're doing?
Yeah. So it was like 2.5 years in sobriety. You know, I'm like growing. I'm working excavation, and then I'm also like mentoring kids in my community. Like, you know, neighborhood kids, foster kids, taking them to play basketball, just buying them a Little Caesars pizza, you know, like just being a positive male role model. And that's what, like God had like put that opportunity in front of me and like led me to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I knew, like, I had this feeling that my purpose was greater, you know, like how can I do this on like a big level and help a lot of kids and just a lot of people in general. So in 2020, God gave me the vision of the business. It's called Just a Dad from Akron.
Wow.
So like being a dad saved my life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not about like, you know, for like the brand, as far as like, it's not about being a dad, you know, it's become this whole movement of, you know, so I launched it online, COVID happened, and I'm praying, I'm like, God, like, how is this, you know, like you gave me this vision to do this, you know, so it's like apparel with purpose. So I create and design clothing I use a percentage of sales to host community events, give back, stuff like that, inspire change, bring everyone together, you know. And COVID happened. I'm like, how am I going to do it? You know, how am I going to give back? And he had blessed me with 10 people in the community that showed up as like this army. And we just started making Facebook videos. I'm like, we were buying toilet paper. We had like the secret plug on toilet paper, you know?
Wow.
And,
Incredible.
and I remember like, so it's crazy. So like the tattoo thing, you know, I'm like buying all this toilet paper at the store. And this lady, I'm at the checkout, and she looks at me and she looks at me up and down and goes, "You're one of those people." And I'm like, "What?" You know,
She
like,
wanted to say you were a Karen. I think.
And I'm like, what is one of those people? She's like, "You're buying all this toilet paper." And she's like, "You're either gonna resell it or hoard it." And I'm like, I'm actually giving it away. You know, like, do you want some? And she was speechless. She was like,
incredible.
and she took toilet paper, you know. But it's like, that's the thing is like with the tattoos and stuff. It's like it's in the mohawk, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like people like see you and they judge you, and then they're like, "Oh wait," you know. And it's just kind of like a perspective, you know. And like I'm not perfect. I still judge people, you know. But it's like the more I'm closer to God, the less I judge people, you know, because it's like we're all equal. God created us to be even, you know, the same. We're all the same. No one's better than anyone else.
That's unbelievable.
But with like the business, you know, so 2021 we end up opening up a storefront, and it's on Kenmore Boulevard, the same street I was homeless on. I grew up on Kenmore Boulevard, you know, and it's just God like showing like this is where you need to be. And I was super fearful. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about, you know. I had to sign a 3-year lease for the store, and I'm like, 3 years? Like, I've never even had my own apartment, you know? Like, what happens if this fails horribly? And just really just tapping in and praying and trusting God, doing the next right thing. And we did the grand opening March 6, 2021, and I'm living in the unit upstairs. And as I come downstairs, Akron Police is there, and they have the boulevard shut down, and, like, the mayor was there.
Wow.
And my first thought was, I'm going to jail.
Wow.
You know, because like that's what I'm used.
Yeah,
the house
right.
is surrounded by cops. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to jail. You know, and like
How
and
cool though. How cool.
It was very surreal. Like,
Wow.
it still gives me the chills.
Yeah.
Because the cop came up to me and they were friendly. You know, they're like, "You're the man of the hour," and I'm like, "What?" You know. So I run back upstairs. I feel like I'm about to puke. So I run upstairs and I just hit my knees and pray, like, "God, take this fear and anxiety away and fill me with your strength."
Yeah.
And I had spent every dollar that I had to remodel because the storefront was abandoned for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the community had showed up to help drywall and paint and everything. And so then we go downstairs, you know, and like I didn't even pay rent yet. The landlord was cool, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I see what you're doing. Like, you're good. Just do your thing and then just pay me after." And my buddy had asked me the night before. He said, "What's your wildest dreams for the grand opening?" I said, "That people show up and I make enough money to pay rent." And he's like, "Okay." So we pray. And he's like, God's going to show up and show out, you know? So when I had prayed that morning and went downstairs, I could feel all those things leaving my body, like coming down to go back outside. It's like it was like a book bag.
All the anxiety.
Like, everything gone.
Yeah.
God just removing it.
Wow.
And we cut the ribbon, and someone comes up and says, "I want to present you with this check to pay the first 6 months of your rent."
Wow.
And I'm like, and I couldn't believe
That's
it. You know?
crazy.
So I'm like, wow, that's like far beyond my wildest dreams, right? My main thing, the biggest dream was make enough money to pay rent for one day or 1 month, you know, the next month. And then we opened the store and we sold out everything in there, you know.
It's incredible.
And it was like God just continuously, you know, like I truly believe that when you give God everything and have full faith in Him, that's when the unthinkable can happen. And that's how my whole journey of sobriety has been, you know. So from there, it's just been, you know, a ball rolling forward and growing. But it's cool because it's like the storefront has become like the safe place for kids in the community. They come hang out. And the coolest, I'd say, you know, like, and then people come there on their journey to sobriety, you know. We do the sober support meetings every Friday, and we used to do them in the store, and it'd be like 30 people, and now it's grown 120 people every Friday or something. So it's like,
That's awesome.
you know, it's become like I don't know, I hate to say it because I don't like to like brag or talk about it. Like it's like a beacon of hope. You know, people can come there and receive prayer. They can come there and receive resources for sobriety or build a foundation or build support. And kids feel safe to come there, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have an address for this? Since, you know, people are going to listen, you're going to share it?
Yeah, it's 937 Kenmore Boulevard. Same side as the library, 13th Street, Kenmore Boulevard at the corner.
Nice.
It's interesting how a lot of times for all of us, prayer is always the last resort. We better pray now.
Yeah.
Right? When in fact, if it was the first resort, every day when we get up in the morning, because there's power in prayer, man. And Kenny Lambert, 33 years old, bro, You a grown ass man doing big time things, man. Like that's impressive, dude.
I appreciate it.
'Cause you still have a baby face.
Yeah.
But you like I said, when you came up today, I felt that. Like you have a vibe, a presence about you, and I appreciate that. And Andy Posen, of course. Andy's a Barberton legend. Andy, I've never met anyone who doesn't love you. And I would look on Facebook and all the posts and the comments, and you're beloved in Barberton, man. If you don't know that today, that people love you, dude. And people have been following your story, watching your journey from a distance, of course. And I'm so glad that Paul, let me say this, thanks to Paul, most of the shows we do are his ideas. The people he brings in, like, he finances it. Like, there would be no All the Pressure podcast without Paul, and of course without Josh running things in the back. I'm just happy to be a part of it, to be able to do stories like yours, Andy, and yours, Kenny. It's fascinating. I think we have. In the past, we'll talk about what podcast do you think was the best one, and me and you'll share ideas.
Right.
I think
right.
for me, this one is.
No, this will be. But like I said, I got caught up in just listening, like thinking about the stories
like,
and listening.
I'm sitting here listening to Andy open up, and as he's talking, I got a tear coming out my eye, and I'm like, just the emotion welling up, knowing the pain that when someone goes through something like that, man, with that.
I just couldn't imagine. It's got to be a deep. I don't even know what kind of feeling it would be to knowing when you're by yourself and you're going through that addiction, but yet in your mind you want to stop. It's got to be that battle that you're going through. It has to be tough.
It's definitely the craziest thing. And I think that's what separates people from like normal drinkers. Like people that don't like wake up the next day and that's all they think about. It's like, yeah, we think about other things, but it's like we can't function.
Right.
And like that's priority. The drink and the drug is priority. Even when it's like you're happy, drink. Sad, drink.
I mean, I've known two people in my life. Both are now gone due to alcoholism. In the stories I would heard, they would wake up. Like we would wake up to go to the bathroom to get a drink of water. They were drinking vodka.
Yeah.
That was their drink. They would wake up and they'd had to take a drink, and I mean they ended up passing from it. But it's just a crazy story to listen to think about.
You say you have your second child on the way then?
Yeah, second. Yeah.
And how long? How far along?
The due date is July 14th.
And it's a boy?
It's a boy, yeah.
Wow, you got a name picked out?
Yeah.
Bible names are the best, bro.
It's a secret name.
It's a secret name? Okay.
Yeah, so,
well, I'm hoping it's a Bible name.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
And and like it's crazy because like I feel like God gave me a girl first, right?
Yeah.
Because then it wasn't I'm new in sobriety and it's not my little homie. Go pee on the wall. I'm a protector.
Yeah.
And it changed my view on women, and my responsibilities of how to treat women, how to just view women as a whole. It's definitely.
Are you guys planning on getting married then? You guys?
Yeah, we're engaged. She just wants to wait till after the bump's gone.
Yeah.
Because she the photos. She's a photographer, so she's like, I don't want my wedding photos to have this big.
Well, she's an artist then. Photographers are artists.
Yeah.
Andy, you got any last words? Anything you want to say to anybody? Again, your journey is amazing. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too, my man. And I love Paul.
I should have said something to you years ago because, again, I was following online, seeing it, but I always thought, I was like, wow, Andy Posen had so much love for Zeke of Haiti, and I never knew until way after the fact when I started seeing stuff and his comments and his posts, and that meant the world to me, man. I don't even know how to say it. Yeah, thank you. I love you.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued reading your book for the first time. I know it's a
lot to digest.
Yeah, I always planned on reading it way before then. But, I'll occasionally post milestones in recovery on Facebook and let people know my journey. If anyone knew me when I used to drink, I would go hard. I was the drunkest guy at the party. I was doing things to get people to notice me. And I want them to look and say, if that guy can get sober, I can.
For sure.
They don't have to go, to the level I went to. You just have to want a better life, And, I'm on Facebook. It's Andrew Posen. Message me. And it's amazing all the people, will message me and say, I know, my kid or myself or my friend, you think you could talk to them? And that's really the gift of it, is, that they feel comfortable. And that's what a lot of people feel comfortable talking to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge them. I'm going to love them. And I'm going to show them a little, that it's possible. Recovery is possible, but you can't do it alone.
Right.
Sure.
Andy Posen, Kenny Lambert, leaving legacies. Just incredible. I thank you guys so much for coming on here. We appreciate you guys. Like, I hope, I want to, can I say that? Like, I want to be friends with you guys, like real friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, keep in contact with you and text you and talk to you, because I'm moved by both of your stories, man. I really appreciate you guys coming here. Thanks, Paul, again, for making this possible, because you put this together. Thank you, Josh, in the back, for giving us your time every time we do this, and we appreciate you for that. And
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys
thanks
for coming
having
on
us
for your
here,
stories.
Paul.
Thank you,
Super
definitely.
Blessing. Thank you.
Josh, it's been great. Thank you again, and give us our music. God bless you all.
Yeah, I can't take no loss. Yeah, I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground and it go off. Yeah, hit the ground and it go off.